Abre a cortina do passado, tira a mãe preta do cerrado.
Sunny Brazil is a magnet for tourists. Each year thousands flock here looking for sun, sand and the good life. But I've come looking for Brazil's other gift to the world. Welcome to Semco. It mightn't look like it, but this is one of the world's most radical workplaces. And the difference begins at reception. In fact, Semco has 2 receptionists. Nothing unusual about that, except that the company itself doesn't know which one will be there to greet you.
But we are not sure which one will be there in the morning or in the afternoon, because they talk to each other and they set their own schedule.
Almost every one of Semco's 3,000 employees sets their own schedule.
That man is the CEO of this business unit.
It seems the CEO doesn't have an office and is leaving early. He's not the only one.
There's no reason why they shouldn't.
IT worker João Neto gives himself every Monday off. He didn't ask for permission.
Basically,
three reasons
very hard
why for his supervisor to check up on him.
We can do it.
Like these employees, he keeps changing workstations.
The idea is that you shouldn't use the same position. Should not use 2 days in a row.
It's a rule designed to make employees hard to track.
We can even work here, because if you have one area where you have all the fixed desks, the supervisor may be there and see 8 o'clock who's not here.
Right.
But he's not supposed to do that, right? So the company is providing means to avoid that.
We don't want to know what time people came, how many hours they worked. We want to negotiate and contract with them for much more important things that have to do with our survival, which is, what are they going to do this month? And what do we get from them out of this salary or this value that we're paying? And what do they get out of us in terms of gratification for their life? The rest, to us, is secondary.
The Semco philosophy is that a lot of what managers do shouldn't be done.
Oh, absolutely. I would say that maybe 30% of people's time is spent trying to understand why people make more than they do, how come people came late, why weren't you at the meeting, can you do this by Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and it's all very silly, and there's an enormous waste, and of course at a certain point in time people just are dumbed down and they say, you know, this is just too much work, what do you want me to do? I'll just do my 9-to-5 thing, I'll learn how to survive in this environment.
That's not what happens here. It seems that knocking off early isn't a problem if the work's been done. Normally this machine shop turns out parts for merchant ships, but the workers here supervise themselves. They'd gone home for the afternoon when we turned up.
Well, they are grown up, they are producing what is required.
So when you open up that door, you don't necessarily know whether the factory is going to be working or not?
Not necessarily.
Then again, some of the workers might be back on Sunday if they need to be. These look like hammocks.
Yes, they are.
They've installed hammocks so they can rest and think in comfort. Do you see people resting in these in the middle of the day?
Nothing wrong.
Nossa, eu não conheço uma expressão para isso.
Here's another radical idea. Each business unit within Semco gets to pick its own furniture. This workplace has deliberately chosen cheap chairs.
Why? Because they want to spend the money in somewhere else.
Semco's workers are frugal when it comes to spending their business unit's money. They each get a share of its profits. And then there's this, a cartoon guide to reading the company's accounts, produced by the union and the company. Staff have access to all the company's financial data, and Semco wants to make sure that its workers understand what they're reading. Ricardo Semler believes that unions still have a role to play in his company, though, as in many places, they're in decline.
Unions have less of a role because we deal more openly with all of these issues anyway. But we ourselves are looking for ways to substitute the decline of unions for internal processes where people elect, every 10 people elect somebody who is a keeper of the cultural values and who has job stability, people who can look at every firing and hiring and be able to take an independent position about it in the name of the employees.
With workers virtually running the business, you could be forgiven for thinking that this cutting-edge capitalism has a distinctly socialist tinge.
And if you say, you know, is this Trotskyist or Marxist, is this new socialism, is this European socialism? I don't think so, because the basic issues of the free market are there, which is, tell us how much time you want to work, tell us how much you need to make, tell us what you need in exchange, how you gratify yourself by doing something like this. And this does away with the political ideology issues of what ism does this fall under, because it's just respecting anthropological issues instead of political ideas.
Every 6 months, every Semco worker is invited to select his or her salary. He or she is given information about what workers in similar jobs are getting elsewhere.
Average, minimum, maximum, the sizes of the companies.
And imagine your boss telling you you should be asking for more.
We have cases where they say, no, think again. We don't think this is fair.
We want to pay you more.
Yeah, we want to pay you more.
But don't ask for too much. You might be fired by your colleagues. The entire unit, not just the bosses, decides who to hire and fire. And with workers sharing profits, no one wants to work with a shirker.
Let us suppose you ask me why you're not working. If you're not doing your job, this is going to affect our profit sharing. So you're taking money out of my pocket if you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
You get the feeling that it's in some ways hard to work at this most successful of Brazilian conglomerates. There's freedom, but with it plenty of pressure to perform.
There is peer pressure for bad behavior. If you're here just to collect things for yourself, to live on some other from other people's efforts, you're not wanted here.
Para a nossa passejata de 15 minutos.
It's a philosophy that's worked well for Ricardo Semler. These days he's a public speaker and author. He organised this seminar to bring together 50 of Brazil's best minds to discuss the future of the nation. His company turns over $160 million a year, up from $4 million when he took over what was a struggling ship part supplier 25 years ago. He wasn't in the day we visited. He hardly ever is.
He doesn't like the day-to-day operations. He doesn't like to be checking purchase orders or signing checks, things. He's bored. He gets bothered with this small things.
So he's turning his attention to something grander, shaping Brazil's next generation. This is education without compulsion.
Do you know how to play memory games?
The man who believes in managing without managers wants to teach without teachers. His Lumiar primary school in Sao Paulo uses tutors and masters instead. The masters are architects, astronomers, painters, musicians, real experts chosen by the students themselves to come in for weeks at a time. It sort of helps if they're not teachers. The thinking is that children want to learn and that ordinary schools stop them.
There's a lot wrong with traditional education. The real question is why why do we think we have anything to add to that field? And what we find is that the adults that come to us after being uniformized and homogenized over the years and calcified in the school system, they come to us ready to follow orders, to understand what it is we want them to do. And we've realized that the only way to change this, and it's very expensive and difficult and long to change it at the company, the only way to really change this is to start working with the moment in which society does all this harm to them, which is really at 2.
But like Semco, that doesn't mean a school without rules. It has rules decided by the students themselves.
One of the most important rules of the school, it's forbidden to fight, bite, kick, pinch. This is very interesting because we sit down in the school meeting and say, come on, let's think about, can we fight and bite and kick everybody? We can say yes, and children can say yes, but in the same moment everyone says no. So there's idea of a school being run by kids don't mean crazy place. They know what's reasonable or not.
Three hours down the road, the 46-year-old Semler is preparing to enjoy some of the spoils from his radical initiatives. He's building a multi-million-dollar family weekender. But even here, in the Mantiqueira Mountains, he's applying his philosophy to a new venture. Across this valley is a 20-room luxury ecotourism resort, a property development in the most traditional sense, except that the locals aren't being displaced. They're being given jobs, shares, and a say in how it develops. How many of these people working here would be locals?
100.
Marcos Aurelio is a local who now finds himself the project's head gardener. It's a responsibility he never envisioned coming his way.
Eu que moro aqui desde criança, né, nunca ouvi falar de uma coisa, um empreendimento a esse porte, vindo para cá.
I think people are a bit perplexed at the whole thing. And basically, in the beginning, they thought this must be some ruse to finally buy our houses or to buy our land or to get us out. And economic expulsion is something that we have to fight, actually, because it doesn't even take us buying it. It's other people who come around and say, oh, there's this great resort here, let me buy this guy's house. And so we're giving them long-term financing and other ways to make sure that they stay put.
It seems like nirvana, but it hasn't been easy for the locals, nor has it been easy for the students in Ricardo Semler's school or the workers in his firm.
They're under a tremendous amount of responsibility because they're on their own, meaning if the sales don't happen, the business unit ceases to exist. If the student doesn't learn anything, they really don't have a capacity to go out into the world. If the hotel people are not able to give sustained service at a quality level, they're not going to have customers and guests. So in this format, they're obliged to actually make things happen. And that responsibility is many times more unforgiving than it sounds.